Morning all, morena. The operating environment in which the New Zealand Police has evolved over the years, and we must be in a position to deploy our staff appropriately to keep our people and the community safe at all times. What we're doing today is we are launching a pilot for armed response teams. Now that pilot will occur in 3 districts: Counties Manukau, the neighbouring district of Waikato and Canterbury. And I'll talk more about the details shortly. Why are we doing this? I mentioned a minute ago that the operating environment has changed over the last few years, and particularly after March 15 in Christchurch. The operating environment for our people and our deployment to that must be in a way that we ensure that we do everything to keep our police officers safe, so in turn they can keep the community safe. Since March 15, we've been collating all of the incidents that we attend that involve firearms in a way which we can use it in an evidential way to inform our deployment. Since March 15, New Zealand Police have responded to 1,350 reported firearm offences. On 180 occasions since March 15, firearms have been presented to members of the public or police. On 17 occasions since March 15, those firearms have been presented at police officers. And over half, 8 occasions since March 15, police officers have been fired upon. We must be in a position to ensure that our deployment is professional and deploys in such a way that we can keep our people, New Zealand police officers, and the community safe. That's why we're going to pilot armed response teams in the 3 districts I mentioned. What does that look like? You will see behind me the vehicles that they will deploy. They are standard police vehicles. They are marked in a way that makes them look a little different so that people know what they are, because we need to be absolutely transparent about what we're doing. The pilot will run for 6 months. After that, we will assess the success or otherwise of that. We'll listen to the public about the pilot, and then we'll decide whether or not we roll these out nationally. Every one of the armed response teams will deploy 7 days a week for the majority of the 24 hours, and very much around the high demand periods. Every vehicle will be staffed by 3 armed defenders squad trained personnel. But they will be wearing, and you'll see the officers to my left, in standard police uniform with our standard stab-resistant and ballistic armour. They will look like every other frontline police officer, but they will be equipped in such a way that they will be able to respond to those incidents in a way that immediately provides support to other frontline staff to ensure that our communities remain safe. The pilot will start on the 28th of October and run for 6 months. And we'll assess the success of it at the end of that. Now, I know there'll be many questions, and I'm very happy to answer those questions now.
Do you think there will be more police needed, like more police recruits, or will you use who you already have?
So we're extremely happy with the investment of 1,800 extra police staff in the New Zealand Police over the 5 years since it commenced. We'll be looking at how we deploy our trained AOS staff. Our current Armed Defenders Squad model came to fruition in 1963. The essence of that hasn't really changed since 1963. We're determined that these vehicles will be staffed by highly trained AOS members, so we'll be looking at that resource in order to resource this. What that looks like in the future will absolutely look, but we will be resourcing this from our current resource of people, and they will come from our existing Armed Offenders Squad staff members.
Did you ever expect this would be the reality for police operations in New Zealand?
Look, we aspire in the New Zealand Police and of course everywhere to be the safest country, and this is about maintaining that. I've said the operating environment has changed, particularly since March 15, but also with the continued growth in organised crime, with the continued impact of methamphetamine in our communities, we have to respond professionally and appropriately. But we're determined to turn those things around, and this is part of that solution.
You've asked people to hand in their illegal firearms as soon as possible. If that project has been successful, then why are police continuing to see more people presenting arms?
So there's a 6-month window, as we all well know, for the amnesty and buyback period. We're at nearly 30,000 firearms handed back in, and we've got over 2 months to go. Regardless of how many firearms are handed in at that point, that will be a success, because what we've done is we've given a very big window for very good law-abiding New Zealanders to hand in those illegal firearms. Following that, anyone who doesn't want to take advantage of that window will come looking for you, because I have no doubt that there will be people who won't, and those people are on notice. We will come looking for you and your firearms.
Do you think people will be alarmed at seeing more armed police on the streets?
Look, I mean, that's a real consideration. We're all about policing in a way that makes people not only safe, but feel safe. If you look at our officers there, they look like other police officers. The reason why we have these very professionally decaled vehicles is that people actually know that that's what's there. So we're out to ensure that people feel safe, secure and assured by the New Zealand Police.
At the end of the pilot period, you say that the success of this project will be assessed. What are the parameters for success? How do you define success?
Yeah, part of it will be around the demand. So, how many times did they deploy to jobs? What was the success of that deployment? But also, how did that land with the public? Really, really keen to know what the public think of initiatives like this. That's why we're piloting it for 6 months. Really important that, again, as I say, that the public feels safe around the way we police. So I'll be really keen. We'll survey the public, but also I'm really keen, as this evolves, we have online portals for telling us what you think. So please, give us your feedback.
Why did you choose the trial? What's the total cost of the trial?
We're doing it within baseline.
Why did you choose the 3 districts that you're having the pilot in?
So we ran, I mentioned before that we've been collating data since the middle of March around the presentations of firearms. These 3 districts have the highest demand, so it's obvious that we should start there. Plus, they're quite robust in terms of the number of qualified AOS staff that they have available.
Are you expecting any legal challenges to this move?
You'll need to explain that.
For example, are there any constitutional barriers or legal barriers in New Zealand to continuing this pilot? What sort of lobbying had to happen at government level to get approval for this project?
That's a really good question, because it's really important to state that how the New Zealand Police deploy their resource is a matter for the police. It's a matter for the Police Commissioner, myself and my executive. It is really important that the New Zealand Police maintain that independence. Does that answer your question?
What conversations did you have with the Police Minister about this, and what's his view on this?
I can only restate what I just said. It's a decision and a matter for the New Zealand Police.
If he opposed this, do you think the project would still go ahead?
It's the same answer. It's a matter for myself and the executive and the members of the New Zealand Police as to how we deploy our resource. It's really important that that independence is maintained. And I know the Minister is already on record for saying the same thing.
Is this a step towards wholesale arming of the police?
I'm on record, and I stand by that, that we will not become a routinely armed police service. This complements our current operating model. As people know, we've been very open about the fact that all of our frontline staff are well trained and well equipped and have immediate access to tactical options, which include firearms.
Those statistics that you mentioned since March, how do they compare with previous years or comparable 6-month periods?
Yeah, we've been keeping data for quite some time, but not at the same evidential standards, so at the same comprehensive level. So it's really, really difficult. So that's why we were very keen to maintain excellent data and base our decisions upon that.
Based on the data you have, are those statistics that you've seen since March an increase on previous periods?
So as I said, our operating environment continues to change for the reasons I explained, and yes, we believe those presentations continue to increase, and we need to keep the New Zealand Police and, of course, our community safe.
What exactly is in the vehicles?
So our vehicles are standard police vehicles, and they contain all of the tactical options and the kit that an armed offenders squad member would deploy with ordinarily. So they'll have their full kit available to them on the vehicle, and of course they'll be out and about. What it means is they don't need to be called out. They're there, ready to respond immediately and support other frontline staff.
You've mentioned firearms presentations. What other situations will this resource be used for?
Very much around keeping our people safe from firearm and weapon-related offences, and I mean the full ambit.
Do you think some of the Christchurch deaths would have been prevented if you had this scheme in place?
Look, in terms of our response to Christchurch, we responded within 4 minutes, and they were members very similar to this, trained to that calibre. Our arresting officers, of course, as you've heard in the last few days, those courageous officers were frontline staff, but the staff that arrived first on the scene were all AOS qualified. They were there within 4 minutes, and they deployed in such a professional manner, which actually supports what we're doing here today.
There's been a focus on funding upgrades for tactical response, body armour, armoured vehicles, night vision. Is this all part of that?
Part of that's for our frontline, so that's very much around our frontline and our special tactics group, so it's right across the organisation, but again we've been doing that out of baseline.
What sort of anti-theft devices do these vehicles have? In light of the police car that was stolen a couple of weeks ago in the central North Island, what safety or anti-theft measures do these have?
Yeah, so you should, if you're the driver of one of these vehicles, you'll keep the keys with you. You won't be able to drive them away. So that's the process that we have in place. That's the system to ensure that no one can take these vehicles.
Are the police finding that their response time simply isn't fast enough, and are you missing out on catching criminals because of it?
This is about keeping our staff who do respond safe. So, you know, our people are really, really professional in terms of their response. This is to keep everyone safe and complement our current response. And it's also about things that we actually pre-planned operations so that these people are alongside our other frontline staff.
What sort of armour do these vehicles have?
I'm not going to go into that, but I've said that they are standard police vehicles.
Can you assure the public that if someone was to shoot at one of these vehicles, the officers inside would be safe?
No, I can't assure you of that. We have invested in armoured vehicles for our special tactics groups, but still, shall we say, on the water. These are standard police vehicles.
Are there any overseas models that you looked at as good examples or models to emulate?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the United Kingdom, in the UK, they have armed response vehicles, but they have a frontline service that have no access or training in firearms. So they have a slightly different model. Also looked at Australian models, but again, their frontline staff are armed with Glocks. So we've done the comparisons internationally, and this is the model that we're going to pilot. So that seems like we've exhausted the questions. Thanks very much for being here. Thanks for your attention. I don't know who's here from the New Zealand Herald, but I think it's great that you can see the actual vehicles that we're going to deploy, not what was depicted on the front page of the New Zealand Herald this morning. And so I'd really like you to have a look at our staff as to the way they deploy. Thank you very much. Kia ora.